And a good day to you all. Welcome to our first Weather Academy edition of 2022. And hopefully, you had a great holiday season. For those of you in school, hope you enjoyed your time off. Some of you may still have time off, but I think the majority of you, if you're the elementary through high school, you're back at it for today. I thought I'd chat a little bit about, Christmases past as far as the climatology of Christmas. Some of you, some of you who are real young, you may not have a whole lot of Christmas memories here, but for someone like me, the temperatures and the way temperatures have gone in Christmas has definitely changed as we go through the past several decades here. Back when I was a child. So let's talk a little bit about the Christmas extremes here when it comes to just how the Christmas times have come. So here we have, this is the extreme. This is for Erie at the airport. And here are some of the extremes. The warmest Christmas on record was back in 1964 when we had a high temperature of 66 degrees. That was the high. The coldest extreme was back in 1983. I remember that well. And for those who, of course, 1964, I don't remember. Even I'm a little too young for that. But in 1983, I do remember it well. It was the one Christmas. It was the one time we could not get to church because the temperature had fallen so fast. And we had almost 20 inches of snow. It was almost as snowy as the one here in 2017. But we had almost 20 inches of snow, and the car could not get up the roadway. We couldn't there. It was a small little hill, but it was the only road that led to the main road that allowed us to get to church. We couldn't make it. The car wouldn't go up the hill. And my parents had a very heavy car at the time, but it was just too icy. So we ended up not going to church that particular year. But that was the coldest. And the snowiest, most of you probably remember this one, 2017, officially at the airport, 20.9 inches of snow. As many of you know, we have a little debate as to just how accurate that was. But the fact is, 2017 was definitely the snowiest winter in Erie. And something that many of us certainly remember. Now, one thing to know that we've had a lot of chat here about climate change. I don't like that term very well because climate naturally changes. So climate changes. It always does. It's more the degree of change that we look at here. And a lot of times you'll hear, certain events. This tornado outbreak or this cold snap is all due to climate change. You have to be careful when you say things like that. I'm not saying that it's not necessarily true, but if you look at this particular map, or this graph, I should say, first of all, you'll notice, that whenever we look at climate, we have to look. You want to look at trends as opposed to individual events, because this, like. These are individual individual years, all these little dots. And you'll notice that we have a lot of variability going over from 1970 to 2017 here. That's the latest data they have here. Notice, look at that. Look at how warm it was. I believe that was 2014 or 2013. No, that would have been 2015, 17, 16, 2015. Christmas was extremely warm. Not as warm, but you can see, I believe it hit 50 plus that particular year. Not as warm as 64. So if you look at that in a vacuum and you say, oh yeah, global warming caused that. So, but if that was the case, we would expect these dots to go up steadily. Along with this mean line. This is the mean or average line. So, a lot of times you'll say, you can say, well, gee, that 20 inches of snow, that's all due to climate change. No, maybe not. A lot of local events or one-time events have to do with the local conditions that particular day, not necessarily when it comes to climate change. So some of the larger scale features like hurricanes, and to some extent the forest, the forest fires out west, they cover a large area and usually cover, if not a week, maybe several weeks. We can go a little bit. We can add a little bit of truth, a little more truth to maybe climate change and those events. But like the lake effect snow that we had in 2017, it was basically a one. Now it's just more like a 3-day event. That's too short of a time scale to say, yeah, global warming or climate change that caused it. You can't necessarily say that. And you'll notice, I mean, our if it was a true global warming event, we would expect the warmest Christmas to be this year, and we would expect them to go up steadily each year, but that's not the case. So you have to be careful whenever you say, well, global warming caused or climate change caused these warm temperatures. Again, warmest temperatures back in 1964. I mean, that term, global warming wasn't even a term. Coldest air was 1983. Well, what happened? Why wasn't it back in 1920 or something like that? So again, when you look at events, when you look at these quick events like that, you have to look at the trend. Now, there's a definite warm up here, as you can see, in Christmases. 1970, the average temperature was around 30 degrees, about 32. The average temperature from 2017 is up to 34 or so, or 35. But the average uptick here was 3.5 degrees. Now that you can see when you take the mean of all these dots. Now we can say that there is definitely a steadier trend toward warmer Decembers. And my personal experience has been, we seem to have more green Christmases in the past, say, 10 years than I have when I was growing up as a child back here in 1970. So in this case, you can definitely say, yep, there's definitely a warming trend here in Erie. Is it due to climate change? That's always up, for a debate, for conversation. But it is kind of compelling that it would have that. Now, I'm going to, we talk about the 12 days of Christmas. Let's see. And we'll move this over here. So the 12 days of Christmas, which basically are going from December 25th through January 5th, the 12 days of Christmas. So when we look at things like that, we find, again, the same kind of trend that we've had, that we showed in the previous graph. Now this one goes again. In fact, looks like the trend is even warmer. Check it out here. When you look at the average temperatures that go during the 12 days of Christmas, they've gone from roughly 28 to almost 35 here for an increase of over 7 degrees. That's a definite warm up. So not only have Christmases warmed up, but Christmas vacations have generally been milder here in Erie. Now, doesn't mean we're getting rain all the time. No, these are average temperatures, highs and lows. Forgive me, I think I mistakenly said high temperature, but in fact, the average high and low here. So, we still get cold enough for snow. And in fact, usually with warmer temperatures, you have more moisture. So the potential for heavier snow is actually a little bit larger because we have these milder temperatures and it's still cold enough for some snow. But there's a definite uptick here. And what that does is it also affects the amount of ice that we have on the lake. So here's a look at, this is not Lake Erie, this is all the Great Lakes. And we chatted about this before. The percentage of peak ice cover. Now, again, keep in mind, Lake Erie oftentimes freezes solid, but the other Great Lakes usually have some openness. So you're not going to get 100% here. But you'll see we've had some cold times. the lake ice is a direct correlation between colder winters. So if there's a lot of lake ice, that means that winter was probably very cold, or at least below average. You can see we had above average and below average lake ice, but notice a lot more dips in since the turn of the century here, since 2000, and the lake ice average, which was getting to about 60%, has dropped now to just about 40%. So we've had a drop of almost 20% in average lake ice cover. As you can see, if you had looked at the lake ice in 2015, you're like, wow, that's wow. There's no climate change here. Look at how cold it was. Look at how much ice we had. A lot of these have to do with individuals. Sometimes it may have been an extremely frigid outbreak, because while it talks about ice, peak ice cover, it doesn't talk about the thickness of ice. So if you have even a thin layer of ice, that's considered definitely covered with ice, even though it may melt in one day if you get one quick warm up. So we have to, again, look at this with a critical eye, but the general trend definitely, which leads us to further confirm that the winters are getting generally milder, is that the lake ice is going down. Now, what does that mean for us? Typically, with more open ice, you have better chance of getting lake effect snow later in the years, because with less lake ice, more moisture can be picked up. It's much harder for moisture to get into the air when there's ice as opposed to when there's open water. So that's one thing. But another thing is, lake ice, and we've talked about this on our news a lot during the year. Lake ice provides a nice layer of protection from erosion, because the ice acts, like a barrier. With less lake ice, lake erosion is becoming more prominent. That has been the case here at Presque Isle. We're replacing sand at a larger rate in the past 10 years than we have before, because there's less of those lake ice and ice dunes that help protect, from the devastating effects of the waves. Now, we do have the breakwalls out there, and that has helped. But it also, but they, can't do as much as a good batch of lake ice, and that can cover a lot of the area and protect us. So those are some of the things that we look at. So there you have it, kind of a quick look at Christmases past and some of the climatology of Christmases, and we'll see how things look in the future. But again, don't take any one event and say, oh boy, that's climate change. You have to look at the events either in a large area of time or over larger areas, a large period of time, or larger aerial coverage to really start looking at just how climate change is taking place in our region. So there you have it, everyone. Glad you joined us. Enjoy your week, and we'll talk to you again next week with another Weather Academy.